I'm going to show you a few of these power poles. That have the plasma burn spots on them. I'm going to have to keep that camera angled down so the lighting doesn't give it out on us, but you can see that one there, and then it's just speckled all the way around. Down here you can see where it's eaten out that whole piece. And this would be part of the reason why they're shutting off the power in California, to prevent fires. But it's not because wind is going to knock the power lines over. It has something to do with these plasma bursts that may be detectable like a CME, like a solar flare, and whether they know that it's going to be caused or that it's already incoming, and that's why they shut down the power lines, because they know that there's a solar flare about to hit, and that when it does, fires happen. But it's not because wind is blowing over the power lines. So I'm going to run down the street here a piece and show you a couple more spots where, if you've been watching this channel, you know what you're looking at now. It's highly burnt here, unburnt here and here, and it's electricity from inside coming from below. It's not coming from these power lines above. It's not lightning coming down from above. It's coming from the ground up, and it burns things from the inside out with this inconsistent burn pattern that is produced by high amounts of electricity. I'm waiting for the focus to come in, but it doesn't look like it's gonna. There we go. So as you can see, this is all pitted out right here and right here. These two right there and there. Pretty big one right there. And this is right up against the road, so people passing by can see this. I'm not like the only one. It's pretty obvious. That's the one we were just looking at. This is the very next one down the road. Same pattern. Deep holes burnt into the wood right next to unburnt spots with the real spotty burn pattern coming out. That's black charred, that's black charred, that's black charred. The lighting isn't real good right now, so I'll get up close just so you can see that fire don't do this, and then it's just more evidence of these plasma fires, and that it's so obvious on these telephone or power line poles going down the road that there has to be a concerted effort to keep the true story about the California fires and why they're shutting off the power. Anyone who goes to their boss in a local news outlet station and says, "Hey, I think I got a story. I think these trees are burning from the inside out with electricity. It's coming from the ground up." The editor says, "Sorry, there's been a gag order placed on the department by higher up authorities that say we cannot report that." Certainly, I'm not the only one that sees this. And because it does affect everybody, plenty of people have gone into their media outlet position saying, "I've got the story of a lifetime here," and they're shut down. Just like plenty of other YouTube channels, just like mine, have discovered this and do not get a lot of airtime or a lot of wide distribution and get, you know, stifled. Because if the general public knew this, there would be a lot more panic. People wouldn't just go to work like they normally do. So I'm gonna run down the road and show you the next one down the road. But yeah, that's pretty obvious when you're driving by that something has happened here. And it's not fire, it's electricity from within, but it's not coming from the power lines above, it's coming from the ground below. Okay. And I'm not the only one who can see it. So certainly there has been a coordinated, concerted effort to make sure this does not make mainstream news and to keep the general public unaware of it. Going down to the next pole now. You can see how chewed up this one is. I'm having to hit it at a weird angle because if I don't, the lighting cuts out and you can't see anything. And I have to get up close for you to actually see what there is to see. But it's very obvious when you're looking at this pole from the street. It's not hard to notice. So these cars driving by are able to see it real easily. Because they're not using a camera, they're using their eyes, and the lighting is fine when you're using your eyes. The only reason it's hard to see right now is because the lighting is so low. You can see this groove and this groove. Those are completely chewed out by the electrical currents, along with these two pits here and here. This is what the whole pole looks like with the naked eye driving by, so it's real obvious that electricity has done this. And it goes all the way up the pole. And just for reference, those are the windmills right over there in the distance. At Spanish Fork Canyon, that's the mouth of Spanish Fork Canyon. So I think these poles, and almost all of them have it along here, have had this done to them within the last year. I would have noticed this driving to and from the canyon last year while I was documenting the plasma fires that had happened then. And I've even been to Spanish Fork a couple times this year, so I think this has actually happened fairly recently, within the last month or two. Okay, I'm gonna run down to the next pole and then call it a... This is actually filming through the window from inside the vehicle, right next to the road. So as you can see, it's not hard to notice. It's just a matter of lighting right now. Alright, this will be the last one, but suffice it to say that there's more than 3 of these telephone or these power line poles along this road that have this type of spotty burning pattern. I just got to get to work and I ain't got time, and you probably don't want to see all of them, because after you've seen one or two, if the phone would focus and allow us to see one or two, that'd be awesome. But it won't. There we go. So, all of the poles going down this road look like this. It's because I got the light on. I'm turning that on. So even Stevie Wonder could see that there's something going on here. And the fact that it is so obvious in so many different places leads me to understand that there is a coordinated effort to keep knowledge of this phenomenon under wraps. Otherwise, you would be hearing that we're looking into it and we've assembled a task force to look into the plasma fire phenomenon that people are reporting everywhere. There's been plenty of people report on this. And just like me, they develop a YouTube site or whatever, and the information gets channeled. So what I'm showing you here is just how deep the grooves go. Maybe I'll come back when there's better lighting, but I think you get the point. This telephone pole is cheddared with this burn pattern that is so splotchy and sporadic. There's no way anyone driving by that can see this would think that that's fire that did that. It's very obvious electricity. They probably assumed that the electricity came from the power lines that are connected from above. But if you've been watching this channel, you know that it's actually coming from the ground. But that is part of why they shut off the power in California, is to prevent the underground plasma fire from traveling through those wires and up through the telephone poles or the power line poles. Alright, one last pole. It's a good example of what it looks like all the way up, pretty much. You'd think that people would wonder why their power line poles are looking like this. Enough that media outlets, with social media these days and the access people have to communicate with one another, it's some sort of cognitive dissonance that prevents the general public from discussing this. Because we all have access to a media source, social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, where they could not keep this under wraps if it weren't for the general public not wanting to discuss it and walking right by it and pretending they didn't notice. Because otherwise they have to think about something that is a bit disturbing and distracts them from that which they would rather preoccupy themselves with. So they go on, blissfully unaware, engaging in willful ignorance by ignoring what's right in front of their face. Otherwise, this would be a more widely discussed topic, because there are enough examples that I have presented that hundreds of other people see. This guy driving by right now, this isn't an obscure example. It's right here. And he could talk to his family and friends and coworkers and get online, but they don't. They choose not to. And this divide between the no's and the no-nots is sharpening with every anomaly that they actually, I believe, are intentionally putting in front of our face. Like the Kentucky gun show being used as a fraudulent example of a war in Syria. I don't even watch mainstream news. I just know there was this example where they took some footage from a gun show in Kentucky and put it on ABC News and presented it as if it was a bombing and the Kurds we need to go defend because they're the ones that helped us in the war in Afghanistan. And whoa, turns out that's actually footage from a gun show in Kentucky. I think they do this kind of thing to drive the divide between the no's and the no-nots even wider and drive people further into a state of cognitive dissonance, not paying attention to what's going on around them. We'll talk more about that later.